microphone does that. It's like those face filters on social media. It makes your voice sound better.
Yeah.
We're rolling. This is Whistle the Feast, and I'm here with Jacob Kempfert. You're in town for what now?
Till Thursday. A few days.
And what brings you here?
The annual convention of the Evangelical Lutheran Synod.
I see. So we were able to squeeze in just a little bit of time. Both of us have things before and after this moment, but I'm really glad that I get some time to talk with you. You haven't listened? You don't know about the podcast?
I just found out about it on this trip.
Okay. So what you should know is that you're perfect for this.
I've never been accused of that before, so thank you.
Yeah, you're an ideal fit. It's all in casting. Because you dwell in kind of both circles that we seek the Venn diagram crossover for.
Mm-hmm.
We're interested in the crossover between creativity and theology. And so I've seen you exhibit that in various ways. You're wearing a clerical collar as you sit here.
I am. Yeah.
So that's a signal, a broadcast about what's important and what you're about.
Mm-hmm.
But I've plopped a bunch of your artwork in your hands, and
I've forgotten most of it.
Yeah, that might be a good place for us to begin. To just it's an audio medium, so people aren't going to see these things.
Mm-hmm.
But
maybe what they imagine will be much better than what they actually are.
I don't think that's possible. But that's a way for us to begin.
Sure.
Let's talk about what those are and why I have them.
Yeah.
and then by then I'll have more questions.
Okay, sure. Well, I guess it's collage. Would you call it that?
Definitely.
Taking images from popular magazines of decades past, eras past. And especially advertisements. So it's almost double removed, where it's double mythologized. It's in the 60s, the 50s, so that has its own mythology in our imagination. But then within that contemporary time frame, it's advertisements, which is its own kind of mythology. And so it's, I guess, taking those images out of their context and piecing them together in ways where we can get more of an experience out of it than was originally intended by the ones who created it and designed it and published it originally.
Okay, so that's a good broad overview of what this body of work is like, its sources, and maybe people can start to picture how it looks. How about you? Would you pick one to describe in detail, and then we can start to sort of dig down into what it does.
Yeah. And looking through these too, I was reminded one of my goals when I was sort of making these was not only to use imagery but words as well, and to use the idea of cutting out words in order to produce a different meaning. So you have a block of text and you remove certain words from the text so that what is remaining produces a different message. And then you connect it to either the image that's connected to those words originally or connected to a completely different image, unintended. Mm-hmm. I guess one is, this must have been from Life magazine during the Apollo missions, because it has the Earthrise photograph of the Earth rising over the surface of the moon from, I forget which mission that was. I think it was before they landed on the moon, though. Then there's that's on the left, and on the right, there's a separate clipping of one of the astronauts from one of the Apollo missions. And the text that's on there is from that photograph, but it's severely cut down from what the original text was. The original text, I have no idea what it said, and I threw it away, so I have no way of figuring out what it said unless I find another copy of that magazine, but I have no idea what magazine I took it from. So the majority of the text is gone. But I think what remains is just a handful of words, but it still perfectly describes the image of the astronaut. Because in front of the astronaut is a little packet with a straw, a little food packet with a straw that's just sort of floating right in front of his face. And the original block of text was very descriptive of what was happening in that moment. But then I cut everything out and replaced it with what looks like a sunrise over Earth. Beams of sun, bright sunlight coming through the words. Hurtling through space at approach of second sunset, weightless applesauce.
Can I see it?
Yeah.
So obviously it was a block of text, and we can see that because the margin is left. The white margin that connects the whole paragraph together remains.
Yeah.
And anybody looking at this would be able to examine and know that you've gutted the paragraph. You've taken out almost all of it.
Yeah.
So I'll read it again. Hurtling through space at approach of second sunset, weightless applesauce. Is that a haiku?
I would qualify it as a haiku. People get very uptight about specific syllable counts. Yeah. I think that's a tool in order to accomplish something greater.
Yeah, there's a few ways to talk about that. There's the technicality of the syllables, but also, let's say, the spirit of it.
Yeah, it's a constriction, very limiting constriction, in order to produce an intended meaning, where you are communicating a moment that can't be repeated, a moment having to do with nature or change or the seasons, and the relationship between the observer and the observed. And the very restrictive syllable count is intended to help the poet focus in on what is essential, what is the nature that I'm observing. And it's very helpful to be very strict about that early on in writing a lot of haiku. But even the great masters of haiku broke that rule quite often. Once they had reached that certain level of, I can achieve the intended result better without the tool, the strict limitations of the tool. But that doesn't mean that they then used as many syllables as they wanted all the time. So there was still the heart, the intention of the tool remaining.
Okay, so we got too far afield, right? We're talking about now like a writing conventions. I want to talk about this piece,
sure,
right? Because I think talking about the particulars, right, helps us to understand the project, helps us to understand what else is in the stack. So, when I look at this and when I consider it, I think the suggestion that I feel is to relate to being the astronaut. It's like you're plucking a half second out of the real experience for me to just consider. What's it like to be in that capsule, watching the sunset happen again, and you've got like this indescribable epic grandeur outside your little porthole.
Yeah.
Right? But then you're stuck in this tin can with I don't know, like baby food.
Yeah, you see your applesauce floating across in front of you.
So would you say juxtaposition is one of your tools?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Almost a sort of shock of I wasn't expecting that. And then how does that connect with what I was expecting or what had been provided to me?
Do you ever
previously.
get feedback on these collages?
I don't. I think you're the only one who knows they exist, apart from whoever saw them when they were on display at Bethany.
Right. We had a little bit of a conspiracy.
But they were anonymous
at the time.
At that time.
Right. We put them up. Right. This is the big reveal. Like, it was Jacob Kempfert. Yeah, we were showing these in different venues around campus. I showed them in the Ylvisaker elevator for a while. It was a little mini gallery.
Nice.
I had a board, kind of a more official looking board with a little bit of a prompt. I think you've got it there to help people understand that this is anonymous.
Yeah.
But I think that's fascinating too, that you haven't had that back and forth with an audience on this content. Some people assert that it isn't art until somebody else sees it. Otherwise, it's like a diary entry or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like your thoughts about why make this stuff.
Yeah. And I'll have to. I haven't done similar material in a long time, and so I have to access my memory and
It's
what I remember of
it's
being,
an ambush.
my inspiration at that time. The medium is part of the message, where like it's intentionally these very as cheaply published as possible magazines that would go out to millions of homes every month, every 2 weeks maybe, and then go in the garbage. And so that ephemeral nature of it appealed to me, and not only of the material itself, but of the one who forms the material, the artist himself being ephemeral, being maybe not so much a concrete thing, but an event that happens for a time and then is gone and is forgotten, and you can never recapture it. Even if you have the name of the artist, even if you have examples of their work hanging in a gallery, they happened, they're done with their death, and you can't recapture the essence of that event anymore.
A lot of people will remember you associated with theater.
I do get that, yeah, too. People still remember certain shows from Bethany that I helped out with and was a little part of.
So the ephemeral thing you just said is something we've discussed on this podcast about the nature of the medium of theater, that has got great power for the moment that it surrounds you and, sort of saturates your senses and your attention, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone.
Forever.
Right.
Because no two performances will be repeated.
And we said that in that conversation, we said that, something like painting or sculpture sort of plays with the dials. Like it gains, mediums like that will gain durability, but lose engagement. They don't demand all of your attention the way that being surrounded by a performance does. So I didn't come into this realizing that, but you've sort of like blended those two concepts now.
I didn't realize that either.
You didn't know. So
but, yeah,
somehow you've made something that endures, but is sort of using ephemera, or it's sort of implied that it's not made to last.
Yeah. And I see the seed of that, actually. Like I didn't put that together either, but the seed of theatrical performance that is in the moment, and that's it. And even living on in memory, or even living on being digitally recorded, it's not the performance. But then sort of leading into this type of project, which is also has its own transience in a way. And I remember my intention with these was to create them, leave them anonymous, and then just either give them to people or just leave them places and have them be discovered. And I guess that goes back to that sort of shock of, oh, what's this? I wasn't expecting that. And then trying to piece together not only what is this, what does this mean, but why is this here? And a part of me really loves the fact that the questions ultimately are unanswered. You can't know. If you were to find something like this clearly crafted, clearly made for a purpose and a meaning, and you wonder who made this and who put it here and why, you won't find the answers to those questions, and you can wonder about it and be curious about it. But ultimately, just like the theatrical performance is done and it's gone and it's locked away from you, so also the answers are locked away from you. And there's something very frustrating about that, but also very satisfying to me, and it keeps you endlessly engaged.
It's like you're advocating for that.
I think I am.
You want
to a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's good that we don't have all the information or all the questions answered. It's such a convenience and it's such a commodity that we don't even consider the beauty of not knowing. And not only not knowing, but not being able to know something.
I could imagine the reaction. I haven't thought about this, but I could imagine the reaction of somebody finding one of these collages would be Google Lens. You know, like the phone must know what this is.
Oh, yeah.
It probably leads to a website, you know, like there's probably a campaign.
Right, yeah.
That, sort of explains it.
Yep. But
and you would just frustrate that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. There's like an implied stance. The implied stance, I'll take the other side of it. The implied stance of, like, let's say progress or the modern idea is that we know things. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the humanist stance that we're pretty close to figuring it all out.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just sort of a hubris, like a stance.
Yeah. And if I don't have the information, I can easily access it if I desire in a moment of time. I can have the control that I desire through understanding something or through having information about something. Not even understanding the information, but just knowing the information is there. Looking up an answer. And I think a lot of people, if they have a question about a fact or, a bit of trivia or something and look it up on Google, I think many times they don't really want to know and internalize the answer. They just want to know there is an answer. So they want to know that there is information in order so that, the world makes sense.
This little piece of chaos has been tamed.
Yes, exactly.
Somebody took care of it.
Yeah. And they don't remember the answer. Generally speaking, I wonder how many people actually remember the information that they looked up on Google, that they were curious about, how many people internalize it and actually apply it to their lives. Or if it's more so, oh, good, there is an answer. What's next?
Yeah, so I talk about the stance of curiosity or knowledge with my students. If you're going to do a painting from life, say you're looking at a landscape or an object, if you feel like you know it, you're going to wreck your painting. Because you'll start taking shortcuts. You'll start inserting little symbols, and it turns into like a collection of stickers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And you're not really there anymore. You're not paying attention to the way the light is falling, and if you shift left or right, the perspective shifts and everything sort of its relationship shifts. But the stance of knowing is so much more comforting. Resolution is comforting.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is very interesting because it seems like you're trying to inject something into the world, right? Mm-hmm. In a way that not even you know. Mm-hmm. You're even keeping yourself from knowing what these things are going to do. Mm-hmm. Why is that important to you?
I think it is a big reason of that is because we get such comfort from knowing, and we get satisfied with knowing, and we get smug with knowing. And I think in an age of information and attention on information, I think not knowing is very important. It's part of being human, and it's a part of humanity we've been actively trying to eradicate through the pursuit of endless information accumulation, just for the sake of having information readily available at our fingertips at any moment. And I think tying it into theology, I think that there's so much more we don't know and so much more we cannot know than what God reveals to us clearly. There are many things he does clearly reveal to us in his word, but there are many situations in that word where even that clarity, which we have everything we need to know to have that saving relationship with him, to know his grace and mercy, to know our sin, and to know it well enough to be moved by his grace to repentance, by his Spirit. But yet there is so much. I go back to Job, the book of Job 38, when God finally appears to Job in the midst of the whirlwind, and all he does is ask questions that have no answers. It's basically saying, you don't know, and you cannot know. You were not there.
The questions affirm the stance or the relationship.
Yeah.
Who stands above and who is below.
Yeah. Yep. And I think there is a danger of that humanistic desire to know as a means of control, as a means of dominance, or a means of, okay, now everything will be good. Now I will have peace. Now I will have comfort and security. Now I will have strength.
Which is all a paraphrase or a variation on, now I will be like God.
Bingo, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Where do we go?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is the way this works. Aspirations. Mm-hmm. Let's end with what's on the horizon for you, specifically in the realm of producing expressive work or producing art.
Mm-hmm. I would love to get back into fiction. It's hard to find the time to sit down for 2 hours and write without distraction or without attention being drawn elsewhere. So it even my fiction sort of slimmed down quite a bit, especially after entering the ministry. I would like to get back to trying to write longer fiction, and by longer fiction I mean a novel of a crisp 90 pages. But I have some ideas I've been stewing over for a number of years, but finding the time to really sit down and dedicate it to paper has been difficult. And yeah, I keep pursuing poetry, haiku and shijo in particular, but just very, very small poems. Hopefully with great effect, though. But and then I don't know. I guess it's what do I do with everything I have now? What do I do with all those haiku I wrote for a year? I've always been very, very bad at self-marketing, and I think maybe this producing these works anonymously and just leaving them places was a way that I could market myself without having to market myself, to get my work out there to be experienced by people without having to figure out, all of the angles and nooks and crannies of how to get your work seen by people in the usual forums.
Well, there's that. You're describing sort of the technicality of, what do you need to do to be effective?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more interested in your thoughts on the sort of riddle for a Christian creative about, is it okay to share your work? Right? Is it boasting?
Mm-hmm.
Is it self-aggrandizing in some way? I suspect, I think without really having the language for it, I think a lot of people wrestle. A lot of people in our midst wrestle with the way the art world says you should proceed and the way that your Christian education says you should proceed.
Mm-hmm.
There's an impasse at times.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find that narrow bridge.
Yeah. I think it certainly is okay to market yourself and want your work to be seen, because there's a reason that God gave us these gifts, and there's a reason he made the gospel and the proclamation of the gospel relational. Where, for example, in the book of Acts, you get a scene like Pentecost where thousands are converted by the Holy Spirit. But usually it's just one-on-one personal relationships. And so I think God has made it that way. That the sharing of the gospel, the proclamation of his mercy and grace, is meant to be relational from person to person. And so I think it absolutely is within our vocation to desire our godly work to be seen, not for our godly work's sake, not for our sake, but for the sake of offering consolation, solace, joy, even in sorrow, having that sorrow shared. Oh man, pride. It's so hard to do that purely. It's so hard to put yourself out there and want your work to be seen from a pure heart and a selfless heart and a Christ-centered heart, because always that pride sneaks in. Excuse me. I think it's also okay not to be seen. Mm-hmm. You're seen by God. God gave you the gift, and God knows. God is your audience, and he's an eternal and infinite audience.
Now Emily Dickinson comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Never published in her lifetime.
Yeah.
Vincent van Gogh.
Mm-hmm.
People who insisted on making these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't market-driven.
I think it ties back, too, to something you said earlier about art. It's only art when someone sees it, or something like that.
Yeah, that's something I heard from a college prof once.
And I would say, is it only nature if someone has explored it? God created the earth, and we have not fully understood it. We're still discovering so many things. God created the depths of the sea, which we have such little knowledge of the creatures that are down there. God created the cosmos, and we are discovering it, but it's out there. And so I think even in the craft of creating itself doesn't need to be seen right away. It doesn't need to be seen by who you want it to be seen by. Because from the whole process, even before you had the idea, even before you had the ability, the artistic ability, God saw it, God knew it, God was an audience to it, is an audience to it. So I think we often desire human audiences, and we overlook the greatest, the greatest audience of all, who is the giver of all good gifts, and who gave us these things for our closer relationship with Him and who He is, and His beauty and His grandeur, a closer relationship with each other, and a closer relationship to His creation as well.
Some of the things you do could be described as inefficient.
Yes.
And yet you persist.
I do.
Right? And I do too. I wonder why, right? I wonder how could we possibly justify what we do?
Mm-hmm.
You were just describing some of the justification for that.
Mm-hmm.
Why does nature?
Yeah, right.
Why does creation do what God said it to do? Why does an apple tree make apples?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I suppose, what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose.
Yeah. There's a quote by G.K. Chesterton that I'm going to butcher, but the paraphrase is, there are patterns in nature, and things happen again and again, and we get bored of them. We lose, the mystery is lost, and the joy, the delight of seeing a flower is lost. But maybe flowers bloom again and again because God delights in it again and again. And his quote is something like that, is that God has this delight just for the thing itself. Not it has worth not because it produces worth, but because it is.
He just loves it.
He loves it, yeah, for its own sake.
Yeah.
Because it is His. And because it is good, because He is good. And so all those flowers that bloom with nobody watching,
Mm-hmm.
all those apples that grow with nobody getting nutrients from them, nobody tasting their sweetness or their tartness, all those creatures at the bottom of the sea that are both beautiful and horrific, and yet they're there and they exist and they are doing what God gave them to do without an audience, until maybe there is one.
And delightfully ungoogleable.
Yes, exactly.
The unknown comes back.
Mm-hmm.
The mystery comes back. It's not mysterious to God.
Mm-mm. But it's delightful at the same time.
I want to hear you talk about grace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much more beyond that.
Okay, yeah.
Can you take that delight as a jumping off point?
I guess God's grace is so habitual to Him. It's who He is, that we grow so accustomed to it, maybe, especially if we've grown up in the church. I grew up Lutheran, confessional Lutheran. It just like looking at flowers. They bloom again and again, and you can get bored. You can take it for granted. But the grace itself is a delight, and it ever blooms. And to be able to capture that in a sermon, or in a statue, or a painting, or a film, to capture that, the significance of that grace, the beauty of that grace, despite our own unworthiness for it. That's the secret. Like, that's the trick. It's very hard to do, especially if people have heard it before or think they've heard it before, and are engaging with God's grace in the Word and Sacrament and the liturgy in a purely habitual way. Maybe like a guard at a museum who every day walks among priceless masterpieces and has grown so accustomed to them, doesn't even
look
think
bored.
About it. Yep.
They all look so bored.
Yeah.
I've been reading a book called Martin Luther's Theology of Beauty, which
Who's that by?
show notes will tell us.
Okay.
What seems relevant right now is the way that God inverts the relationship between beauty and love. So the human sort of standard progression is, that's beautiful, I love it. Right? So first beauty, then love. And God's gospel behavior, his grace behavior, inverts that. Loves a thing first, though it be ugly. Loves a despicable thing and renews it, transforms it into beauty. Makes it beautiful by his love. I've been thinking about his inversions. So much seems backwards.
Yeah.
From what seems obvious to us.
Yeah. And the difficulty is we can get so accustomed to his inversions that we don't even think of them as inversions. We don't think of them as surprising anymore because we've heard it again and again and again. That what is absolutely shocking and surprising to a first century audience, we grew up with, we just know as the Bible. And so it's not even surprising to us anymore. And so in the craft of sermon writing, it's getting that surprise back, getting that, here's the effect. Here's what God is doing. In a Christmas sermon, I once used the example of cavefish. Cavefish that have lived in caves for generations where they no longer, they're blind because it's complete pitch black. They have not used their eyes. They don't need their eyes to perceive light. For a human being to love cavefish so much that you become a cavefish, you become slimy and cold, and now this is not appropriate to Christ, but you as a human becoming blind, right, living in darkness, in order to raise them to something greater, raise them to the light, raise them to the warmth. I use that as an example in a sermon of the love that God has for us, that God the Son would take on our own humanity, would enter into this world of darkness that he created to be good, but then was corrupted to be dark, and enter in and live among the blind who would hate him, who would despise him. But yet he loved them so much that he becomes them in order to resurrect them and raise them, to raise them with him to the throne of glory in heaven.
It's such bad behavior.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
it's shocking.
Like
it's offensive.
Read a self-help book sometime. How to succeed.
Yeah.
Like he's doing everything wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Out of love.
You must really have to love cavefish a lot.
Yeah.
To want to be a cavefish.
What a waste.
Yeah.
What a waste of so much potential.
Yeah. And you think of your human reason, you think of your human sight, you think of your human body, your opposable thumbs, and you willingly do not make use of any of those in order to enter your own creation. Out of love, out of a deep love that wants to redeem that creation from all that was wrong, from all that was corrupted, from all that was sinful, and all that led to death, to redeem it and sanctify it, to make it your own, for eternal life, for all that is good. There's a beautiful quote from Tolkien, J.R. Tolkien, it's near the end of the Return of the King, I believe, where I just think it's Samwise Gamgee who says, I think it's one of the hobbits. I'm not sure if it's Sam, but he says, "Are all sad things coming untrue?" And there's that idea that like death and entrance into eternal life, and particularly Christ's return, that is the moment all sad things will come untrue. All wrong things will be undone. The love of God, the grace of God is so mysterious.
I love being surprised.
Me too.
A few times in this discussion, you've had a turn of phrase that I have this renewed interest in language. Like, wow, it's tremendous what words can do.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, when we were talking about your collage work, the idea of somebody looking at this and thinking, I didn't expect that,
mm-hmm.
is a desired reaction. I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe you had, similar reactions. You seemed surprised by the effect on you,
mm-hmm.
that he could do so much with so little.
Yeah.
Being surprised. And now the cave fish for Christmas,
mm-hmm.
right? What a slimy, I didn't expect that. This is not tinsel.
It's not the traditional Christmas symbol.
Yeah. And that's what it takes, right? You
mm-hmm.
gotta kind of like knock people out of sort of the rut, out of their stance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wrapping this up
mm-hmm.
with this comment.
Sure.
I think that you've been particularly blessed with a fascination and an ability to surprise, to carefully consider, to, so to speak, buy hairdo. Like choose those words
mm-hmm.
just so, for the invisible effect, for the effect inside the one who's having realizations,
mm-hmm.
The other person listening
mm-hmm.
or reading. I thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is my pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out there that if people are at all interested in the haiku, get in touch with me.
Whistle the Feast publishes its first book. Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
I'm not particularly like proprietary. I just, if people are interested, then I'm happy to share.
We're happy to share too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feast.
Yeah. Amen.
Right? That's the spirit. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Buy hairdo.
You'll have to explain that one. Buy hairdo. Thanks. This is Whistle the Feast. Bye.
And that concludes this episode of Whistle the Feast. We hope you enjoyed being a part of the conversation as much as we did. Whistle the Feast would not be possible without all the creative people and spaces at Bethany Lutheran College. And you can head on over to blc.edu to learn more about the college or schedule a visit. If you have thoughts, questions, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. You can actually send any feedback about the show to feastreaders@gmail.com. A huge shout out to the wonderful people in our Bethany community for sharing their thoughts with us, and our producer Jaksyn for managing the edits. And with that, I'm Nora Kratz alongside Jason Jaspersen, and we want to thank everyone who tuned into this episode of Whistle the Feast. Until next time.
Get curious, be of good service, and discover what God has given you.